Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this special, it's not really a Saturday morning show, it's just a special show, I suppose. My name's Roddy Galbraith, and this is my friend and business partner, Paul Martinelli, of course, as most of you know. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm excited about today.
I just love this program. And, preparing for this program. It has been years since we talked.
5 years.
I did not believe it.
I think you first called me, actually, in 2014, when you were in Auschwitz. You've got to do this program.
Have to do this program.
Yeah, and so...
and it took you a year for us to get on the schedule, but we did it.
Yeah, we did it, and it was a great program. And still, I was listening to it, actually, in preparation for this, and I was like, even 6 years ago, we were... good. Well,
Hey, talk about quite good. I just have to give a huge shout out to Susan and Holly and Heather and Jen. You talk about doing a great job. I mean, they took over command here, and they did a wonderful job.
They did a great job.
Big hearts for the empowered ladies and very smart men who tuned in.
Yeah,
but they did a wonderful job.
Fantastic,
it was really good.
And it was difficult because of the coronavirus and the fact that we wouldn't let them all be in the same place together at the same time because of the germs, and we're trying to be sensible.
Yeah,
what's it called, social distancing and all that. So they had to work out the technology. They were distributed. It was like
not easy to do.
Yeah,
you guys did. You ladies did a fantastic job.
And the lighting and the sound was good, and obviously they had to do all their makeup, and Susan had to tidy up when she was as well, make sure everything was neat. So it was great. Well done, ladies. Well done. Very impressive.
Jen was like her first day.
You're
welcome, bro. Here you go.
Yeah, no,
did a great job, everybody.
Yeah, well done. So we've got a free program for you today. We've got free programs for the next 9 days, actually, isn't it? It's an 8-day program.
It's for you and all your friends too. So share it and
share the love.
Our goal here is there's absolutely our commitment. Our promise to you is there's absolutely no selling. The program is for you to use for your own personal growth. We're not doing the licensing on this at all. So we're just giving you and the world the program for your own personal study and use.
And don't forget, if you're just tuning in, if you've been away, we did give you the license for 5 new programs, so you've got plenty to teach for free as well during these, however long it lasts.
And the empowered ladies will put in those links. And there's also a couple of shows that we did, one specifically that teaches you how to then use those 5 free teachings. You can either use them for free, you can use them to get tribe engagement for yourself, to build your list, you can use them to and sell people into a program. So we wanted to empower you with some great resources that we know will really add value to people. And we, in that one show, we explain why we chose those 5 and how you can kind of language to your audience why you're teaching these 5 lessons.
Yeah, so that's great. So you've got plenty to teach. This program, though, is different. This was really, we thought this would be a fit because of what's going on at the moment. So when we were in Israel, what program were we going to do? We were going to do self-image mastery. We were going to do a program. And when we were in Israel, we were in a bit of a bubble, weren't we? We didn't realise what was going on around the world. Yeah. Bethlehem was kind of closed, but apart from that...
But Bethlehem is almost always closed anyway, so it's pretty restricted,
Right.
Hence the big 26-foot wall that's 90
But not all the way around. The TV always showed the big concrete wall, but it's wire in a lot of places. 90% of it is wire.
Right.
I didn't know that until the guy pointed that out to us. Anyway, it's not a political show.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Oh, so we were going to do Man's Search for Meaning free. No, we're going to do it as a program. That's the next one. And then when we came back, and it was kind of crazy, and we didn't realise. We had a meeting, and I don't know if it was you or Holly or Susan or Heather. Somebody said, "Well, why don't we do Man's Search for Meaning?" Yeah. And we all at the same time went, "That's perfect."
Yeah, I think it was Susan. I think Susan was saying that this was the time. During this time, okay, if we're all going to shut down for 14 days, she said, I think this is a great time for people to really focus on mastering something. She said, I wanted to learn languages, and we thought, you know what, Man's Search for Meaning would be wonderful because finding mastery of your life. And I don't know that you can truly find mastery of your life without understanding the meaning of your life.
Right. Yeah.
Finding that meaning then leads to purpose, and then vision, and then goals, and then obviously results in your life. So this is a great way to, especially right now, I think for us to really examine what meaning means. And what meaning is in our life.
Yeah, it's perfect really for what's going on. To have a couple of weeks at home, or however long it is that people are shut away, 2 or 3 weeks to think about what's the meaning of life, what's the meaning of my life, and all those things. So I hope you're going to enjoy it. If you're just tuning in, lots of you joining as we've started. We're starting today a free program on me and meaning, based on the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Now, so share, tell your friends.
Yeah, please share. And I'm going to throw a curveball. The ladies in Empowered Living don't know this yet, but here it goes. The schedule for this is going to be, we were originally going to do it, every day for 8 days. We're not going to do that. This Saturday, we're going to bring in a financial planner to talk about, because most of us had 401ks before this, and now we have 201. Now we have 201Ks. Yeah, 101Ks. So we're going to bring in our friend Reagan Wagner, who's going to kind of give us a perspective about the markets and some of the things that we can be thinking about financially. And then on Sunday, we were going to do we were going to pick back up on the schedule, but. We realized, Sunday morning we can't really do this. We don't want to compete against, churches, and we want you to, go to your house of worship. So we were going to then do it Sunday evening at 7. But I just heard on the way here that iHeartRadio is going to do a huge free concert starting at 7 o'clock. They've got Elton John. They've got like
they got Elton. I see what's happening.
They've got 20 of these.
So you want to stay at home and watch that?
And they've got 20 artists who are going to
including Elton John,
recording from their home live onto this televised around the world concert.
So the people at home might want to watch that. So we're not doing it.
Yeah. So we're going to take Sunday off. And you know what? To be honest, also I need a day off.
You look right.
Well, when we landed from Israel, if you think about when we landed
2 weeks ago.
No way.
What's today? Thursday. It's 2 weeks tomorrow.
It's
2 weeks. I know.
No, I mean it's been crazy, and we've been running and gunning here, and because and we had to get everything back up and running, and we had Jen on board, and we've been doing kind of day and night.
To say you want to watch Elton.
No, I want to watch out. I want to relax, and then we did the 3-day summit, and I've been working kind of double duty because I'm doing this, and then also I'm helping the John Maxwell leadership team,
right?
And all of our companies there, so I'm consulting and working with them and helping them think through. They're trying to run their business as everybody else is.
So you'll be back with your A game on Monday then?
Oh no, I don't. At least my B game.
I'll be back.
We'll see how late I'm up on.
They've just closed all non-essential businesses in Florida, haven't they? At the end of today.
Yeah, and I think they're going to close.
Does that mean Starbucks is essential? Surely, drive-through is essential.
I think also what they're going to do is they're talking about, at least in Florida, they've got the National Guard now at the airports, and anybody coming in is now have to sign a paper to. I was self-quarantine. I was talking to our partner, foreign language partner, Daniela Nika. She was on a cruise ship when we came back from Israel. She was on a cruise ship. She came back to the United States, flew into Romania, and they made her sign a paper that she would go and self-quarantine. And the government's calling her 3 times a day.
Are you serious?
To make sure she's
there. So it's like a cheap electronic tagging, isn't it?
They're taking it seriously, which is good,
as
we all should. As we all should. So
I spoke to Curtis. When's Curtis there? So he's not joining on Sunday then when you're trying a new slot?
Yeah, probably not. So Curtis Sliwa, we're going to bring Curtis Sliwa on. We've got a whole lineup of people that we're going to. I think we're going to be bringing in. We've got a senator who's going to be coming in. Who's going to talk and let us know because we just did a $2 or $3 trillion financial aid package for the country, and for many of you, you are small businesses and you employ people or you're self-employed, and you need to understand how that works for you.
$3 trillion. You can't even get your head around that.
Well, if you think about
$3 trillion, how much is that?
If you imagine that the United States government collects $4 trillion in a year.
Wow.
It's an entire year.
Tax or
So
wow.
Of tax collections that they're now turning around, flipping.
So no one's paying tax for this year. So.
Well, they did push back the tax for
3 months or something.
Yeah, to July or something. So we're going to bring in a senator who's going to talk to us and let us know what's going on.
I know who it might be as well, which is like very. I mean,
a big one. Yeah, a big one.
You could say huge.
You could say huge.
A giant of politics.
So we're bringing
we're
bringing in a financial planner on Saturday. We've got Curtis Sliwa who's going to talk about some of the things that
it's amazing what
he's doing in New York for the homeless people. Because you don't realize they say shelter in place. Well, if you're homeless, what does that mean?
Well, he said there's 60,000 people in New York in shelters and another 10,000 on the streets. He said underneath his building, practically, Grand Central Station, there's 300 people all the time just sleeping rough there, the homeless.
And many of these people, are suffering from mental illness and if you think about it, all of our economies have been impacted, right? All of our economies have been impacted. But if you're homeless, you have your own economy too, don't you? I mean, if part of the way that you sustain your life is by, maybe it's panhandling, to be able to rely on the kindness of strangers who walk by and put money.
Is that what panhandling means?
Yeah,
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I heard the expression a lot, but I didn't know that's what.
Yeah, and so many people, there's so many people who are on the street who, that's another crisis, but who suffer from mental illness, and they rely on the kindness of other people on their way to work, who throw in change, and those people aren't there now.
Right? Yeah, no one's out, are they?
Nobody's out, and so their economy is crushed.
He said they're doing 2 shifts and they're going and feeding the homeless in the day and the night. And he said exactly the same thing. A lot, most people wouldn't be able to go and feed the mentally ill, but they can. They're able to do it. So
they're doing great work. We're going to have you talk about a business that's making an impact. Hey, and Shiloh's business. I think they're in four different states. They're feeding a lot of people.
Right.
And so I think we're going to have them on and talk about some of the.
They're so joyful all the time.
All the time. And some things. Some of the really creative ways that imagine in a restaurant business. I mean, they've taken a huge hit, but they've been able to keep most of their staff on and operational, and so
that's great.
So they're going to share. So we got some good guests coming up.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah.
So should we jump into Man's Search for Meaning? You ready, or is there more things you want to?
I think
we're ready to go.
Yeah, this is good.
So we're talking about Man's Search for Meaning is the book. Me and Meaning is our program, and it's loosely based on the book.
Yeah.
And the book is not public domain, so we can't kind of give the book away as we have done with some of the other programs. But it's important to understand, I think, who Viktor Frankl was and why we think his work is so important. And so what we wanted to do at the beginning is record like a live here to there, if you like. Do you want to just quickly tell them what the here to there is so that people understand the concept, and then we can do one for them? When did you come up with the idea?
Well, back when I was in my commercial cleaning days and my first mentor, Patrick Hayes, gave me the book Think and Grow Rich, as I was driving at night from one office to another office to another office to another office, I created just a cassette tape. Back then we had those. It was kind of like my power tape. And what I did was I took quotes from what I was reading, and I had music on, and I would listen to those quotes on my way from here to there.
Right.
And so from here to there, and from here to there, and from here to there, I would listen to just positive quotes. And so my first digital product was a here to there. I took quotes that were meaningful in my life, that were with me, time-stamped in a journey from here to there. So when I recorded one when I was with Les Brown, and I recorded quotes that were impactful in my life during that time.
That's really
nice. So I think there's 4 or 5 different ones that I did. I did one with Nick Vujicic, one with John Maxwell, one with Les Brown, and I think 2 on
your own. Yeah. So I always thought maybe I gave you too much credit. I always thought that here to there.
You've never given it to me, just for the record.
I pretended to give you too much credit.
He's never given me too much credit.
I begrudgingly give you as little as I can. No, I'm just kidding. What was I saying? I always thought it was genius because it's for everyone. Who am I? I'm me. Where am I? I'm here. What time is it now? So everyone is here, and it's relative, and everyone wants to go there.
Yeah, that's so the whole of who we are spiritually.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was describing everyone's journey, no matter what they wanted to do, and you'd come up with this.
Well, it was that too.
I didn't know it's just you driving from here to there.
No, it was that too. So I mean, people. I'll tell you what. I mean, it's amazing. Here's funny. I recorded that little. I mean, it's other people's quotes. I mentioned that on the CD. And I had the first one I had. I think it was like a 12-year-old girl who just
did the piano. That was lovely.
She did the piano.
Yeah.
The piano.
I've still got some of those CDs.
And so many people have loved that one. These last several days, I've been just hitting, on my cell phone, just the sunrise.
Right.
We've had more interactions.
Yeah. No one cares what we say. They want to see the sunrise.
There's no teaching. There's no nothing. It's just the sunrise. We've had more views, more shares, more comments every morning. So at around 7:15 a.m. Eastern time, if you tune into this page, there's the sunrise, and it is beautiful. It is stunning. It's so gorgeous. And I wanted to do that for people because if you're kind of locked in and shuttered in and you're not seeing this, it's beautiful. We are really blessed because we've got the beach here.
Yeah, that's right. Although we're not supposed to go.
Well, for me, it's my backyard. So I'm just in my backyard.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so it's more than just sharing the sun though, because it is sharing the sunrise, but it's a community because everyone says like, "Hi, how are you?" And you're dropping in with all your friends around the world, the global community.
So great.
So it's really nice. Yeah, and you do that for what, like 10 minutes or something?
No, I've been streaming for like 20 minutes, and people are. I mean,
joining.
I hate turning it off because when I go to turn it off, there's like 380 people watching. I feel like I got to run. I got to take my phone.
Yeah.
I'm going to find a way to do it without just my phone because I have to
just play the recordings.
No.
There's a hurricane in Florida. Paul's putting up perfect stuff. Right. Here we are in Jupiter Island.
So back to
here to there. So what we thought we would do then is that we would record like a 5-minute now here to there.
No we. Yeah, okay. I've taken Jerry off.
There. What we thought we'd do is record a 5-minute here to there to introduce you to Frankl and the importance of his work and share some of Frankl's quotes as well as a bit of background with some hopefully pleasant tinkling music in the background.
And one of these quotes is absolutely my favorite. So
they're all good, to be honest. They're all good.
But like one, not just his favorite quote, it's like my favorite of all time quote. So.
It is.
Okay.
Okay, so I should warn you before we start. We're talking about Viktor Frankl, who has kind of chronicled his experiences in Nazi concentration camps, if you didn't know. So this context is important, and what we're going to talk about today is why it's important and why it's necessary to really appreciate how uniquely positioned Viktor Frankl was to talk about what he's talking about. And actually, it's difficult to think of anyone who could do the same thing.
Who has the moral authority to teach this book. Yeah.
But some of you may find it distressing, so just keep that in mind.
But ultimately, it's a message of hope. It really is.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's the most terrible and the most kind of milk of humankind is wonderful thing you can imagine. So through the miracle of technology, we are able.
Yeah, just for a couple of minutes. This runs for about 3 minutes.
Probably 4 minutes, something like that. It is estimated that 11 million people were killed during the Holocaust.
The Nazis killed approximately 2/3 of all Jews living in Europe.
Viktor Frankl was born in Vienna in 1905 into a Jewish family.
He studied medicine at the University of Vienna and later specialized in neurology and psychiatry, concentrating on depression and suicide.
Between 1928 and 1930, he offered a special program to counsel high school students free of charge.
Later, in 1931, not a single Viennese student committed suicide.
On the 25th of September 1942, Frankl, his wife, and his parents were deported to the Nazi Theresienstadt ghetto.
His mother, Elsa, was killed in the gas chambers.
His father, Gabriel, died at Theresienstadt.
On 19th of October 1944, Frankl and his wife were transported to Auschwitz, where they were processed.
His brother, Walter, died in a mining operation that was part of Auschwitz.
His wife, Tilly, was transferred to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, where she later died.
Frankl was liberated by the Americans in 1945.
In 1946, Frankl published a book that chronicled his experiences as a concentration camp inmate.
The title says so much about his vital discovery of the importance of finding meaning in all life.
Nevertheless, say yes to life.
The title was later changed to Man's Search for Meaning.
At the time of his death in 1997, Man's Search for Meaning has sold over 10 million copies and has been translated into 24 different languages.
As the struggle for survival has subsided, the question has emerged: survival for what? Ever more people have the means to live, but no meaning to live for.
What is a meaningful life?
Suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning.
Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl.
Man is that being who invented the gas chambers of Auschwitz. He is also that being who entered those gas chambers upright with the Lord's Prayer and the Shema Yisrael on his lips. Viktor Frankl.
We watched and witnessed some of our comrades behave like swine, while others behave like saints. Man has both potentialities within. Which one is actualized depends on decisions, but not on conditions. Viktor Frankl.
We found that man can bear almost any how if he has a big enough why. Viktor Frankl.
It is a peculiarity of man that he can only live by looking to the future. Viktor Frankl.
Man is not the son of his past, but the father of his future. Viktor Frankl.
I recommend that the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast be supplemented by a statue of responsibility on the West Coast. Viktor Frankl.
It is our responsibility to look for meaning in life, even in the darkest times and whatever the circumstances. Viktor Frankl.
I know that without the suffering, the growth that I have achieved would never have been possible. Viktor Frankl.
A life of short duration could be so rich in joy and love that it could contain more meaning than a life lasting 80 years. Viktor Frankl.
The meaning of life is to give life meaning. Viktor Frankl.
Isn't that lovely?
It really is. Wow. I mean, when you hear those and you understand who thought those thoughts,
Right.
and what he had experienced, and the conditions and circumstances that those thoughts were forged in is just incredible.
Well, he's,
Talk
like
about
we said,
awareness.
uniquely qualified, wasn't he? Because he was a psychiatrist. He was practicing Viennese in Vienna, and he was, he was studying people and helping people. And
Yeah.
then he finds himself in this situation. Then he's watching, and kind of, on the one hand, he's a part of it, but he's also observing it as well, isn't
Yeah.
he? And then afterwards, a year afterwards, then documenting it all. It's
Really,
unbelievable.
It's a wonderful book. You can pick it up on Amazon. And
Yeah.
the book is done really in two parts. The first part is kind of man's search for meaning. The second part is kind of his philosophy of kind of the methodology of
Right.
his body of work,
Yeah.
which you may not find as interesting as certainly the experiences that he brings forward from his time in the camps.
I mean, it's amazing. It's a harrowing read, but it's also there's a beauty in there as well, isn't
Yeah,
there? As well
really
as
is.
describing the circumstances.
Yeah.
And you talked about, growing up when your struggles, with childhood, and how you've been able to kind of capitalize on that, or to learn from that, and then to be able to help other people as a consequence of what you've been through.
Yeah, I think that's really what we're looking at this program in terms of understanding the meaning of what meaning is.
Yeah.
And when you look at the definition of meaning, it means to be precisely marked. To be marked by what happens, and then you allow yourself your God-given ability to then assign meaning to that. And oftentimes we come to conclusions that this means that. Simply because of the evidence of the time, or the evidence in front of us, when really this doesn't mean that. It only means this or that because that's what we've said. And so growing up as a child of physical and emotional and verbal abuse, I for the first half of my life allowed that suffering and that experience to really define me. I assigned meaning to who I was, who my mother was, who God was. And it wasn't until I realized, as Frankl said, my favorite quote, that between that stimulus and response was my greatest power, my freedom to choose to choose my attitude, to choose my response, to choose how I was going to see myself and how I was going to define those times.
And it's interesting. John gives an example in the 15 Laws, where he talks about one of the wives of one of the pilots during 9/11, and she eventually got the call that he was flying one of the planes, and
Yeah.
And then talks about her journey, and then how she went on to be a speaker and to give hope to so many people because of what she'd been through.
Right.
And she said she never would have been able to do that if she hadn't been put into that situation. And actually, there's a lot of good that's come from it, as terrible as it sounds, because she was able to put a new meaning on it, to not be marked by it, as you say.
And I think that's something that for all of us, as we go through this time, there is good to be harvested in this time. There is good to be harvested in this time. There's things for us to learn, and I would encourage you to, a really simple exercise is to just pull out a pen and take a piece of paper and just begin to write down, even if it's just a daily practice of what you're grateful for, but to find the good in what you're able to harvest. I mean, you were able to have family time yesterday playing tennis with the kids that you otherwise would never have. For me, I can tell you, these last 3 days of recording the sunrise, I don't think I've watched the sunrise.
Take it for granted.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched the sunrise that kind of purposeful 3 days in a row since I first bought the place 13 years ago.
So it's interesting that we're saying you can find meaning in suffering, find meaning in second. But for us to say that, if you're listening to this now and you're really going through some of the worst things that people can go through, it sounds kind of glib for us to say, oh, don't worry, you can find. But that's why Viktor Frankl's work I think is so important, because he's seen the worst.
Yeah, he has more authority to talk on this subject, to find meaning in suffering.
Yeah, because he's had everything taken away from him, apart from his ability to choose his attitude, as he said.
I think the empowered ladies were talking about kind of first world problems during this. Where am I going to get my nails done and where am I going to get my hair done? Kind of first world problems, and then we look at some other countries that may not be as wealthy, that may not have freedom like we have. It was really interesting to be speaking with our language partner Garrison Calderon for our Spanish platform. He lives in Costa Rica, bordered right with a communist country, and the difference of how they're handling it is completely different, obviously, and obviously the people's ability to have resources is completely different, and keep those people in prayer. I mean, there's people all over the world, and even right here in our world, right here in the United States, that this truly is. I mean, for all of us, it's an inconvenience. For all of us, it's a challenge. For all of us, we're having some hardships. But there are some people that are truly suffering. I mean, when you look at some of the pictures that Curtis Lewa shared of the people that they're feeding, and you look at them, and you look at where they're living, where they call home, it's a cardboard box, under a bridge, and
it's cold,
and it's cold, and it's wet, and they're hungry, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, could you imagine going through this? And they don't have access to the news, and they don't have access to what's going on.
Right.
They're not getting updates, and they're not sitting in their air conditioning home, eating a Pop-Tart or whatever it is.
Well, Curtis said actually when I spoke to him yesterday, he said that they're going out, they're not just feeding them, they're giving them hand sanitizer, and they're like putting their hands and because they don't have access to those things. Of course.
I mean, we can't find it to buy it. And people aren't out giving it away.
Right.
Most people who have it are hoarding it.
Right.
There's people who have 100 jars of this stuff. They'll never be able to use it all.
And
so it's a good time for people to stop and to say, okay, maybe 10 days ago when I went shopping, maybe I was in a different state than I am now. Maybe I've got a higher level of awareness. Do I need 75 rolls of toilet paper here? Maybe I don't, and maybe I can.
Well, Susan said that Publix are saying you can't give it back afterwards. There's no returns.
Yeah.
You buy it, if you want to hoard, you're stuck with it if you don't need it, which I think is good. Just on this idea of you said marked by experiences. Or,
precise, and it's not just marked. It's the definition of meaning means to be precisely marked, and I think that's a really great distinction, the use of that word.
So what I'd like to explore briefly is, we talked about with the intellectual factors in. Was it in the last program? I think it was in the last program.
Almost in every program.
It was in every program. And this idea that, yes, you have your imagination, you can either use it by default, in which case maybe you're imagining all the worst case scenarios, you're imagining everything that's going to go wrong, and you're not even thinking about it. In fact, it's not thinking, it's just mental activity. It's just going on. So you can use your imagination in that way. Same with your memory. You can remember everything that has gone wrong in the past. And that, again, tends to be by default. Or you can use it intentionally. You can use your imagination intentionally to imagine what you want to imagine. You can use your memory intentionally to remember what you want to remember, because what's going to help you. I wonder to what extent, if we think about suffering, as you were just saying, your default, I guess, growing up, was to be marked by that experiences, and for the meaning that you took from it, probably to be on automatic pilot. You didn't think about it. It was just, this is the way it is, and this is the way I am, and this is what it means.
Sure. Yeah, I think, one of the things that I've shared in other programs is that at any given time, our thinking comes from three perspectives. Either the perspective of the historian, the perspective of the reporter, or the perspective of the futurist. Now, if our default model of thinking is to that of the historian, then we are living our life dragging all of our past kind of into our present day. It's this idea of kind of tiptoeing safely to death. We're going to allow everything that has ever happened to us to define us as it was then. Or we could play the role of the historian. I'm sorry, the reporter. The reporter, I grew up here in the United States. We had a fantastic kind of news commentator who was kind of the country's grandfather. His name was Walter Cronkite.
Right.
At the end of every episode of the news, he would say, and that's the way it is.
Right.
That's the way it is, March 26th. In other words, that's just it.
Right.
That's just the way it is. And that's not necessarily the way it is.
Depends who show it is.
Yeah,
depends on who's editing it. Depends what their political leaning is, and depends what they want to achieve with their TV station.
And it absolutely is the way it is, if that's what you've chosen to allow it to be. Whatever is. The room we're in is neither big nor small until I define it, and I do that by comparing it to other things. And so the other challenge with our thinking coming from the reporter is when we say that's the way it is, well, that's the way it is just for a split second, because now what is was.
Right.
And so the third opportunity for us is to be the thinker of the futurist.
Right.
There will be a future. You have to ask yourself, there's only, I think, two sides here. either this is the end of the world, and if you truly believe that this is it, this is the end of the world, stop watching us. I mean, if I really believed that this was the end of the world, I wouldn't be doing this show, right? I'd be spending.
I'd still be here.
Yeah, I'd be with my family, and you would be with your family. So you either believe that this is it and this is the end, or you believe that what is being birthed is a new emerging future. And if a new emerging future is currently being birthed, if we are in the birth canal of an emerging future, then we have to ask ourselves, what do we believe that future is going to be? Well, we know, as we shared at the beginning of all of this, that this emerging future is going to give birth to structural change. There's going to be how we do everything is going to change. Our perspectives of things are going to change. And so, are you preparing for those changes? Are you looking at your life and taking inventory and saying, hold it, do the habits I have now, will they serve me into this emerging future? Do the beliefs I hold right now, will they serve me into this new emerging future? Do the thought habits of my life, do the goals I have, is what I'm focusing on, is my level of awareness, is my skill, my talent, and my abilities, are these the things that are going to serve me and those that I love and mankind best in this new emerging future?
Well, the feelings I have serve me in this new
great addition, because and so the way you step into this perspective of the futurist is you exercise your God-given ability to be a causative force. Emerson said that the law of all laws is cause and effect, and you are either on the effect side or on the cause side. And if you're going to step in and be the futurist and step in and be on the cause side of cause and effect, then the very first thing I believe you have to do is you have to have meaning for your life.
Right.
You have to know what your meaning is. You have to understand meaning. And it's not just meaning in the good times. It truly is understanding meaning in the suffering. And over this program, over today and the next 7 days to follow, or next 7 sessions, I should say, in the next 7 sessions, we're going to look at meaning through suffering. We're going to look at meaning through all kinds of other perspectives.
Yeah. Before we get to that, should we just, before it seems too kind of far away, because I've got a slide for that.
Sure.
This was us in Auschwitz in 2016, and I think it helps kind of create that
understanding.
Yeah, of where exactly it was. As many of you have been.
This is in Poland, by the way. So many people think Auschwitz was in Germany. It's in Krakow, Poland.
Right.
At the time, which was the capital of Poland at the time.
Right. Yeah, and it was. I mean, Susan says it's got like a kind of evil air. It's very sinister as you'd expect. And so this was the kind of the first view when you walk in, isn't it? The watchtower on the top and the tracks kind of moving in, and then you look at the scale of what was happening here. This is the latrines, and you just think, oh my goodness,
that was your daily life.
Right.
If you had to, use the restroom, that's your restroom.
Yeah, and then walking into I think that's the crematorium, isn't it, with the chimney, and just like sinister concrete.
You just can't believe that's. They built buildings for these.
It's an industrial kind of, and that's the inside
of a gas chamber there.
Is that the gas chamber? Or that's the gas chamber?
That's the gas chamber itself.
Oh my
so
goodness.
where people were expecting water to come through.
Yeah.
The pipes on the side. And
that's
that's
the bellows or
that's the ovens that. So you can't believe it. And look at this is it's wired, it's barbed wire, it's an electrical fence. This covers the whole compound.
And there's 2 of them. So that the guards can walk around the bit in the middle.
Yeah, and the guards were taught to shoot the wound. So if somebody were to jump on the fence, they were shot to shoot the wound. So they would stay there for 5 or 6 days and die, as a way to terrorize.
Right.
And as you go through the camp, all through the camp, there's different parts where they would have signs where they would do public hangings and public beatings, and they would, they'd say, this is where, they had a place where if somebody's family had been captured or if they tried to escape, they would bring them there and they would make everybody in the camp come out, and they would torture or kill them there. And
the family of the person.
Yeah, and so you think about, evil, just you can't imagine it, and to be there. I really think it's important. I think there's something like 11 million visitors a year go to this, and I think it's important that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I think it's a do.
That's so then you've got in order to bring people in efficiently, you've got the trains and the train kind of station.
There's a whole operation.
Yeah,
and this gives you kind of perspective of size.
They bulldozed or got rid of or burnt down a lot of the accommodations, didn't they? So, but they kept some for So it's pretty grim.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it's sinister, as we said, but there is also this.
And to think that in all of that, this enlightened soul comes out and creates a body of work that will forever serve mankind.
Well, you talk about meaning. So he projected this kind of meaning into it. When we went to Israel, we went to the Holocaust Museum as well, didn't we? And the guide who was walking around in our group, she said, what you've got to keep in mind is here's Auschwitz and here's the people there. And then around here is everyone going about their life. And even the guards or the people there, they were booking dental appointments. Yeah. They're going and having the meaning that they were putting on it is completely different to what you would imagine any normal person would put on it. But they were continuing with life and carrying on everything's normal.
And so in those conditions and circumstance, we have our choice.
Right. And I think Maxwell Frankl is perfectly positioned to be able to say that, and almost no one else can.
I don't think anybody else could write this book.
Yeah. Or to make that claim. You have a choice.
You have a choice. And you can find meaning in suffering. Well, easy for you to say, but then again, you realize, oh, okay. He's
Right.
not easy for him to say.
Yeah.
And he walked it. He lived it.
Yeah, and he observed other people as well,
Yeah.
didn't he? And he saw some people acting like swine. He said some people did everything they possibly could to survive. That animal level of awareness, if you like.
Some of those stories, and he shares it pretty graphically in the book.
Right, but then there was other people who were prepared to
Same.
sacrifice
Yeah.
themselves. So, yeah, powerful. So we talked a little bit about meaning already, haven't we, from a marked by experience
Yeah.
perspective.
And I think what we're asking you to do in this program is this is probably a self-reflection program. We're asking you as we go through this to really look at your life and don't answer the question of what is meaning. What is meaning for you, and what does meaning and suffering mean? We called this program Me and Meaning because when we originally created it, we really wanted to be intentional about people internalizing this.
Yeah.
This is I think you could enter this study two ways. You could enter this study where you would just observe the content and listen to the program as you would maybe another program, and that's fantastic. You'll get a lot out of it. But I think if you go with us for these next 7 sessions, including this one, make it 8, if you'll stay with us and really personalize this journey, really personalize what meaning in the different perspectives that we talk about, what it means for you, what it means, and stay with yourself for a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that this, especially for what we're all kind of going through right now, I think that this could be a real big jumpstart for your level of awareness. It was for mine and mine.
For sure,
For sure.
When we did it when we did this program 5-6 years ago, it was 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So each week we were suggesting, think about meaning from this perspective. I'm going to run you through it now in a second. But we're doing it in a condensed format, aren't we? So we're doing it over 7, 8, 9 days
maybe
with
10.
some gaps, 10 days.
Yeah.
But it would be useful to come back to because there's, on one level, this is what things mean to appear to mean, isn't it? And then as you go up to another level, this is what they appear to mean. And now you think you've got it, but then you go up again, and it appears to mean something
so
different at a
true.
different level. So
That's
it's
so
layer
true.
upon layer upon layer. So we're trying to take you through some of those considerations.
That's a great perspective.
But it doesn't happen overnight, does it? So if you keep coming back to this program and listen to it often, and you've got lifetime access to it. It's yours. In order to get the resources, you need to be in our group as well. We're going to do the lessons here on the page.
You have to like our main page. You have to be part of our group and on our email list in order to be able to get all the resources.
And then you'll get all of the resources.
And it's free.
Yeah. So come back to it often as we go through. Okay, let's just run them through what's going to happen over the session, shall we? So we're in today. We're talking about meaning and suffering. We're talking about suffering and circumstance, and the unique perspective that Viktor Frankl brings. Tomorrow we're going to talk about meaning and happiness. Well, how does happiness relate to meaning? The next day, which will be Monday, I think now, meaning and motivation. Does meaning give motivation? Does motivation come from what it means to us? And we'll look at it from that perspective. And then number 4, the next day, we're going to be looking at meaning and conditioning. How much freedom do we have? How much agency do we have in choosing meaning, and how much of it are we confined by structures, whatever social structures we're a part of, whatever conditioning we've kind of grown up in? So meaning and conditioning. Then we're going to look at meaning and purpose. To what extent does purpose bring meaning to your life, and how important is that? Then we're going to look at meaning and people. To what extent are people part of meaning? Do they feature or not? Are they important? Are they nice to have? Is it elective? What role do other people play in our finding meaning? And then, of course, meaning and love. And then finally, in the last session, what does it all mean to you? Meaning and me is the last one. So we're going to take you through this kind of journey. I think it's a journey. Yeah, and we're not necessarily telling you what it means, of course, because it's subjective to everyone. So we're going to suggest to you different things. We're going to tell you what we think and we feel, and we'll probably disagree in places, and you'll probably disagree with us. And the important thing is you think about it for yourself. I think, isn't it?
And I think when we say disagree, I think what we're going to do is I don't think we want to find ourselves disagreeing. I think what we want to do is we want to find ourselves understanding, in that Roddy may have a completely different perspective.
So by disagreeing, I mean, that's not the way I see it. The way I see it is...
So I think what we can do is we can find agreement from different perspective. We can find new awareness. I think that's really the big power is that we oftentimes look at it as disagreeing when somebody does, but everyone is right in this one.
Yeah, because you are where you are. Look here to there, like you said. You are here.
What we'd like you to do is as you go through the program, when we get to that last day where it's me and meaning, we'd like you to just take a little bit of time and distill down what your notes and what you're thinking and what your new awarenesses are, and to create a meaning statement, not a purpose statement, but a statement of what meaning is for you, what your life meaning is perhaps. And then what we'll do is we'll do a sharing call either at the end of the program or the following day, and we'd love for you all to just call in and just give the statement. No setup,
right?
And I think you talk about just a power hour.
Yeah.
I think that could be
That'll
really,
epic.
really powerful. And so be thinking about in each one of these sessions and perspectives, be thinking about what you're going to bring out in meaning for yourself.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Really good for us to do that.
Very powerful. So we're nearly at the end of the session already, talking about meaning and suffering.
Yeah.
Let's just quickly look at a couple of different perspectives
I think this is
from a
important
psychological
to share,
perspective. Yeah. So what is meaning? I mentioned this in some of our other programs. There's a spiritual program where they encourage you to go through a lesson a day for a year. And the first lesson is they encourage you to spend the day looking around at what's in the room and to say, nothing in this room means anything. So you're looking around the room and you're looking at everything and you're saying, nothing in this room means anything. None of this means anything.
And I think what's really powerful in this is you look at the room and you say, okay, nothing in this room. Well, it's very easy for me to say, okay, well, that roller carpet means nothing. And
right.
This piece of foam means nothing. The table means nothing. But then all of a sudden I get my my cell phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, that means a lot.
Right. That means a whole.
That's a whole lot.
That means
right?
life.
Or, and oh, my pen means. And then all of a sudden we begin to realize, hold it.
No, that's not the exercise. The exercise.
The exercise is, but what you do is you come to an awareness
Yeah.
of why now does
Yeah.
that.
Well, there's a picture of my dad died 9 years ago. There's a picture of my dad on the wall. Nothing in this room means anything. You know,
Hold it, time out. Yeah.
Right. But you remember there's sequential exercises. So this exercise is to look around and notice and say to yourself, nothing. You're going to have feelings.
Yeah. And which is, I think it's powerful to realize, ooh, hold on. There's attachments here.
Yeah.
Huge attachments. And then you start to realize, hold on, what am I being attached to?
Yeah, right. That pen's expensive.
pen's
This doesn't mean
expensive.
anything.
Costs
You understand
a
it
lot
costs
of
a lot of money.
Yeah.
But don't just notice.
Yeah.
The exercise is
It's an observational exercise,
Exactly.
isn't
Yeah.
it?
Nothing in this room means anything. Nothing in this room means anything.
Yeah.
Simple. And then the next day, they encourage you to look around where you are again and say, I have given everything in this room all the meaning that it has for me. So then you're coming to the next day. So you spend a day thinking, and then the next day you're thinking, oh, okay, so I've given the pen the meaning that it has. And it's really, really powerful. And there's a lot of lessons, but just those two, I think, is really, really worth considering.
I think one of the really powerful parts of that exercise is you realize just how empowered you are, because you are empowered to assign meaning to things. This does not mean that unless you say it does.
Exactly, yeah, because we're empowered, but we're also the slave of unconscious
Of that
assigning
choice.
of that choice. Yeah.
That choice is either freeing or enslavement, isn't it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So let me give you a simple example of how we do this.
This is so good.
So let's say you're out shopping. So while I was shopping, you notice someone in the aisle as you go past, they go, oh, like this. They tut. You call that tutting? We call that tutting.
Yeah, okay.
Someone, you tut. Like that. So while I was shopping, someone tutted. And so that's your kind of observation of what's happening. But we tend not to leave it there. We tend to go a little bit further. While I was shopping, and this is what you're saying to yourself in your mind. You're not saying it out loud. While I was shopping, someone tutted because they were angry. Oh, okay. So now we're saying that they didn't just tut, but we're now saying that their emotional state is they're angry. But again, we don't leave it there. While I was shopping, someone tutted because they were angry with my behaviour. Why? Because I'm a bad person. So this is the inner dialogue. While I was shopping, someone tutted because they were angry with my behaviour because I'm a bad person. Is that true? Think about it. And this is all like automatic, isn't it? It just happens in an instant.
Is it true that you're a bad person? Is it true that they were angry? Is it true that it was about your behavior?
They may not have even tutted. It may have just been like a fly or something, but we see something.
They may have an Apple Pod, and they're
Yeah.
talking to somebody on the phone,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they're responding to the phone call, and you just happen to be there.
And now you've decided it's confirmation that you are actually a bad person because of the way.
Or that they're not a good person.
Right. Yeah. Or then now they're criticising you. Now you can justifiably hate them back.
Of course.
So you probably get them with a car.
And this whole justification this is all about judgment, right?
Right.
Assigning meaning and then judgment. Assigning meaning and judgment.
Right, exactly, yeah. So this was one of the lessons I studied studying cognitive behavioural hypnotherapy and understanding beliefs, and this was one of the exercises they took us through to understand this. So the first part, there's 4 levels, called levels of cognition. While I was shopping, somebody tutted. That's a description of what happened. As far as you know, you're describing what happened. But as I said, we don't take it there. From that description, we go a step further and we interpret what it means. So the next level of cognition is an interpretation. And then take it a little bit further, make it a little bit personal. It's about you, with my behaviour. That you're drawing that inference from what happened. And then the 4th one is the full-blown emotional evaluation, which tends to then become an emotionalized belief.
Wow, that is so powerful. Can you just back up on those 4 and show each one of those again? So while I was shopping, someone tutted. And so you're saying that's my internal dialogue describing to myself what happened.
What happened? As far as you can tell, that's what happened.
Now I say to myself, because they were angry, and that's me interpreting what happened. That's me defining it for myself, right?
Right.
And then I say, with my behavior,
You're inferring.
I'm inferring that.
Yeah.
I'm drawing this conclusion now, right?
Right.
In Turning Point, we do the 4 pillars of drama,
Right.
And one of the pillars of drama is where we jump to conclusions.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
And then we say, from that inference, I then, because I'm a bad person, and you're saying that is my evaluation of the whole. That is
And it's
brilliant.
emotional, though. I'm a bad person. It's emotional. So this is the basis of an emotional belief, which has then power over you. And probably it's reaffirming something that you already believe.
Oh, guys, this is good stuff. I hope you're taking notes on this. This is wonderful stuff. Yeah.
Now, just to highlight what Paul said here, the description, as far as we can tell, is a fact.
Right.
It looked like that's what happened, so we'll say that's a fact. It's possible that you misperceived, but let's say that they did actually tut.
And yes, it's a fact, but everything else, we're going to turn, now we're going to create what we believe is truth.
Yeah,
And there's a
exactly.
huge difference between fact and truth.
And if you ask yourself, is this helping me or is this harming me, keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind as you go through this. That's right.
Yeah. So it's a fact that they tutted, but everything else, all the other meaning that we projected that onto this particular circumstance, so this action.
We've birthed all the negative in this.
Yeah.
We've birthed all the negative.
Yeah, exactly.
And then at a lower level of awareness, when we're operating from an animal level of awareness, we're saying, see what you made me do.
Yeah, exactly.
You
It's her
made
fault or his
me
fault.
mad. You upset me.
Yeah, but we do it to ourselves.
And what we've done there is we've given away what Frankl says is our greatest power, our freedom to choose.
It's
our freedom
powerful,
to choose in
isn't
that moment. This was so good, yeah.
Yeah, it's really powerful. In Shakespeare, Hamlet says, doesn't he, nothing is either good or bad, only thinking makes it so. It's same thing. We have this power, but we tend not to use it. Ramana Maharshi said, don't bother trying to change the world because the world you see doesn't even exist. We can see how we've created this meaning.
Right on.
Powerful stuff. Okay, so we are running out of time. We've got a couple of quotes that we can go through quickly from Frankl, which is talking about what we're talking about here. You want to read that one?
Yeah, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning.
And again, only he can say this.
He can say that.
Because, of what he's been through.
this is interesting. He said that we found that man can bear almost any how if he has a big enough why. I think a great example for this was in the Holocaust Museum in Israel. We mentioned it, I think, on the show when we first came back. There was a doctor who was in an orphanage, and he had these 200 children in his care. He was a great writer, and the guards had said to him, look, everyone's going to the gas chambers. I can get you out of it. You don't have to go. So he knew something because he liked his writing. And he decided that he would go anyway with his children. Yeah. And so this is a statue at the Holocaust Museum.
And I just, those are stones that are on the statue, and in the Jewish tradition, on tombs or memorials, they put a stone there as remembrance. That's what those are.
So it's such a moving story, though. So you talk about that quote that we just said, we have found that man can bear almost any how if he has a big enough why. Yeah. He was prepared to die because he had a big enough why. He didn't want the children to go off on their own.
Yeah. It's our responsibility to look for meaning in life, even in the darkest times and whatever the circumstances are.
It's our responsibility to look for that meaning. I know that without the suffering, the growth that I've achieved would not have been possible.
Yeah,
what
so
a
true.
Mature perspective, that is, my goodness.
And life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. And what we're hoping to do in this program is to help you gain an understanding. This isn't a program of you finding your purpose. This is a program of you understanding meaning and your relationship with it. You have a relationship with meaning. And this is an opportunity that we hope over these next 7 days or 7 sessions to be able to help expand that. So we're going to do a sharing call tonight at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And then stay tuned for future programming dates because it's going to jumble a little bit. And April Fool's videos.
We talk about that. Yeah, just tell them about that.
Yeah,
That's
so
important.
we're going to do April Fool's contest. So we're looking just for a funny video. We showed Joseph Bojang, our Facebook guy, him and his wife and his daughter dancing. Just a fun video. Doesn't need to be a blooper. Nobody needs to get injured. This doesn't need to be a production. But share a fun little quip. We're looking for 30 to 60 seconds maybe. And what we're going to do, cash prizes, is we're going to give $1,000 away. We're going to give 10 $100 gift certificates to Amazon, and we're going to give some licenses away to our empowerment mentoring certification program. So
get your videos in. Yeah. We'd love to see them.
Send them in and just look in the comments and they'll tell you how. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great job.
Time flew by though, didn't it?
Yeah.
Gosh, we didn't cover everything, but we'll
covered
cover
a
the
lot,
rest.
though.
Yeah, and there's more. There's
a
lot more to
We
come.
got a lot of content coming. Stay with us.
Thanks, guys.
Be
Take
well.
care. Bye bye. God bless.